Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mariner of Spirit. I'm Greg, I'm your host, and we've got another great show tonight. We have a wonderful lady, and I can't wait to go ahead and talk to her. Some of you people have seen her when we go ahead and we're on the other show, One Spirit Connect, and she's responsible for one of those groups that comes in, a pair of ladies that come in and they rotate in the month. So, and they're great at what they do, and I enjoy them tremendously. Before we go ahead and we bring her in, I want to go ahead and mention the groups that I support. You have Autographs with Tim Miley, who's an exceptional guy who quite some time ago now went ahead and lost his pup and didn't know how he was going to handle it. And he ended up going ahead and coming up with a plan, and he had a bunch of pictures of him. He had a picture of him and his pup, and he went ahead and he made copies of it and went ahead to a Paracon and actually went ahead and started selling them and set up a donation can. And what that was for sheltered animals and things of that nature. So that was the beginning of a great thing. He became one of those people in the paranormal community that always, when he had an event, he had a lot of great people there. Every time, everybody was always volunteering to come and help. And I was very blessed and fortunate to have been part of, I think, two or three of them. And they were great events, and they were just the kind of events that had those people that you didn't see every day. So I mean, at other Paracons that were there quite a lot. So it was always a lot of fun. And kudos to Tim and to Autographs. He had just told me a while ago that he was going to continue on with it. So I felt really, really glad that he did, because he does such a tremendous job. And secondly is PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer. And that's Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson. They're from down in Florida. And their charity is all for cancer research. And they do events, and they'll do haunted houses. They'll do a night at a haunted house, and all the proceeds go to cancer research. And then they'll do investigations, and it's the same kind of thing. They'll get a bunch of people together, and all that money that they collect goes into cancer research. And they're great people too. I first met them at Old South Pittsburgh quite a few years ago now, and right away it was like, boy, you know, I really like the way they handle themselves and how they handle the charity, and it was great. So kudos to them. Thirdly is the Jessica Petrie Foundation, and that's uh, the daughter of Howard Petrie, and it was a foundation that he established, and it was a resource for expecting mothers and families of pregnant women with mental illness. And a lot of people question that, but at the same time, you know, people that's another one of those little charities that, you know, you just don't understand. Some people don't understand it, and you know, it to me, it's a great thing because uh, those poor ladies need help, and that's the good part about it. Is because of this, they are helped. And then, secondly and lastly, are the authors that I support. And number one is Bruce Holiday. Number two is Tobias Wayland. Three, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Sherilyn Carter, Dr. Heatherly Langdon, Ron Yacovetti, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, and last but not least, Robert Dahl's author on his book is David Sloan, who I've had the pleasure of having on the show. And most of these people have been on here so over the years, but he is one of those people that, you know, when I crossed his path, it was really interesting because when I'm down in the Keys, in the Southern Keys, it's he is really close. And next time I get down there, we're going to get together, and he's going to go ahead and we're going to do some things together. So I want to thank him for that, and I want to thank all the authors for being on, and it makes a difference. So we're just going to go ahead and bring my super guest on. A lot of you people know her. Other people that don't know her, this is Victoria Munday.
Hello.
Fantastic lady as far as knowledge of the paranormal is concerned. Everything, cryptids, UFOs, uh, and she's going to share a lot of great things tonight with us. So, without further ado, welcome, Victoria. Thank you for making it tonight. It's an honor once again to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Greg. It's
Stop it.
stop it. You know, thank you for having me. And my
Well,
cryptids are only in the romantic. Well, that sounds weird. In the romantic world, you know, it's not mine, but you know,
what do
writing.
you when we go ahead and we talk about UFOs? It was
Mhm.
mentioned the other night. I think it was on maybe on Wednesday's show about the fact that there's a new name for them now.
Yeah. USO is underwater, no, unidentified submersible object. So those are things that are coming up out of the ocean and out of the waters and stuff. Um, and then there's UAP, which is unidentified aerial phenomenon, because they're trying to get away from the stigma of UFO, because that's the little, you know, that guy back there, the little green men, you know, the take me to your leader landing on the White House lawn, all that kind of, that's UFO. It's got all this baggage from the 50s, um, jokes, you know, third rock from the sun, but they're trying to bring it, I feel, more into an open discussion where it's legitimate or legitimized, and it's real. So they've changed the name to UAP. Kind of smart. It's a marketing thing, you know.
So when we talk about these now,
Uh-huh.
there's quite a lot happening lately
Oh
in
yeah,
the
daily.
skies, and there was one, I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was it was taken from a boat that was in the ocean.
Yeah.
And he's just traveling along, and all of a sudden these lights showed up. And there were like 8 or 10 of them, I think.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that, if you know?
You did send me that video, and I saw it like the summer, and I think it was debunked, that particular video, because they figured out how it was made and all that kind of stuff. But if they were just like hovering over the ocean, then maybe they are coming. Well, there's a couple of reasons. They could be coming straight up from the ocean. What if they're from like a planet that is a water planet, and that's their natural habitat? They don't walk around on land like we do. It's very presumptuous for us to think that everyone's like us. What if they're the octopi, or what if they are some sort of underwater life form, and that's where they live, that's where they're comfortable? Or there could be, on land they call them DUMBs, deep underground military bases. They could have the same things in the oceans, where, because no one's going to go look there. What a great place to have a research facility or something. Work under the water.
Because we've explored what, 10% of all the ocean now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I was on a show like a few years ago, and the host was explaining something to me, and I'd never even heard of it before, but it totally blew my mind. And he told me, I forgot what the theory is called, but he goes, "What if the bottom of the ocean really isn't the bottom of the ocean?" I was like, "What are you talking about? Of course, it's the bottom of the ocean." He goes, "No, what if it's just like fish and just sediment and stuff? And then when the fish and sediment clear, the ocean goes down even further." I was like, "Oh my God, I never even thought of anything like that, but what if these fish only live at a certain, depth?" Could be.
So that would say that means that all the waters are really connected with each other.
Probably.
In more ways than just surface.
Yeah, because if you think about people, one of my things I've always talked about is the hollowed earth. Not the hollow earth, not like it's an avocado with a pit coming out. It's like an ant bed, with, stratus and lava tubes and pockets of places where, it's been either dug out or excavated, or it's just a natural cave system. But people are always saying, well, no, because it can't be like that because the earth has this solid core. But how do they know? I think 12 feet is as far down as anyone has ever dug down into the earth's mantle. So, I mean, center of the earth is a lot further than 12 feet. It's all just a hypothesis, really.
There's a lot of people in there right now that are all, you got Len Dorman in here, who I haven't seen in about 3 weeks. Kimmy Corpse, Barbara Woodbury Spear, Carol Garcia, Victor Santiago. You know who Vic is, right? He has his own show, and he's up in Boston area.
Oh, okay.
Great guy. Adriana Trudel is here, and I'm killing her name again. I know I am. I just feel it now. She's just looking daggers at me. Rosie Bailey is here. Rosie's a great lady. She's from one group that I belong to, and Carol Garcia is here again too. So
Carol Garcia is amazing. Let me tell you. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. She is absolutely amazing. She blew me away Wednesday night with her session. Just want to say that because I forgot to tell you Wednesday. But Carol's amazing.
Yes, she is. I really enjoy conversing with her because she always helps me, and I'm like a student in a way with her because she always has something else that I don't know. She's like, she pulls it out of her pocket and she holds it in her hands and says, "Look at this."
Did you know?
What I mean? Yeah,
right.
Really.
Well, we all do that.
And that's Len Dorman. Len Dorman is another one that goes back pretty far. In the Chicago circles with Richard Crow and that. So That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Well, I
'Cause
think
I
we
had a-
teach each other. Yeah. I mean, like what I've learned things from you. I mean, hopefully I've taught other people things. Lynn and I are going to meet up at WinStar one night. I think we're going to, play the slot machines because we figured that's not too far from either one of us. So,
WinStar. What's WinStar?
yeah.
It's a casino.
The casino. Yeah.
Where
Yeah. I
at?
can get there. It's on the Texas-Oklahoma border, and I forget exactly where he said he was living. Arkansas, I think.
Yeah, she's in Arkansas.
Yeah. And so it's like 2 hours from me. I thought it was roughly the same for him.
Oh, that's
So
pretty cool. Good for Len.
if we're really going to do it, come on, Lynn. Yeah.
Yeah, you better save your coins.
That's right.
He's probably got them buried in coffee cans in his backyard.
Oh,
Barbara, did I mention Barbara Woodbury's spear?
I think you
I
did.
think I did. Good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to forget Barbara. She'll be throwing something at me. She's always great in that respect. So for our history with unidentified flying objects, and when it all started back in the 40s, that was mostly in the air during the war. They had spotted things that had come in at them and things like this. They had no idea what they were, but they moved really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an uncle that talked about seeing one time, and it came right in, and they were in fighters, and 3 of them took off after it, and there was no way they could catch it. And they had to come back. So the period of the 50s, and you have some great cases of people that have been abducted, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's I can't remember the couple, the man and the woman.
Oh, Betty and Barney?
Betty, yes.
I can't remember their last name, but yeah.
White, was it White? It couldn't have been Betty White.
Hill. No,
Hill.
Not Betty White. Betty and Barney Hill, I think was their name. Right.
Did you know the whole story about that?
I've heard different versions. The one that we get down here in the South is that it was actually a cover because they were a mixed couple. And something was about to happen. I can't remember, or if there was tension because, one was one race, one was another. And so they made up a UFO story. And that's the one I've always heard growing up. But I've heard, I think, more realistic things, but I don't know their story completely.
Do you know what was going on in their vehicle that started the whole thing out? I mean, I want to say that all of a sudden their radio quit, and then the power quit on the car, and it stopped, and then there was something that started to come down in front of them, and all the stories from that particular time frame, including the ones that were in Hellier, because Hellier had Indrid Cold, and how he came out and he ran into Wall Derenberger, Wally something Derenberger, I think was his name, and they approached them the same way. Only in the case of Derenberger, somebody came out of the craft and approached his car at night on a road and talked to him like he was one of us, but he wasn't. And compared to the Wally one, that one, they were petrified, and I know that she was for sure, and he was scared. Yeah. And next thing they knew is they were back in their car, and she noticed that she had a spot on her blouse, and they had been supposedly examined. Now you hear this quite a bit about, if you some of the books that came out, the interesting ones that were a little later on into the 60s, early 70s, like Communion.
Yeah.
Now that one was another one of those that would just frighten the heck out of you.
Hmm.
Do you remember watching that?
Um, that one, no, I don't. But the one that terrified me was Fire in the Sky, because I went to the movie thinking, oh, it's going to be a fun UFO movie, but I was so engrossed into it. And about maybe a third of the way through, I'm like, oh my God, if this is real, this is terrifying. Because especially when he was talking about when he was in the craft and he was trying to climb, he was like in this egg sack type thing. And he was trying to crawl out. Like, if that's real, that's terrifying. And that film actually changed my whole perception of what I thought, UFOs are, what it would be like to be invaded, if that's what I call it. I don't think it would be an invasion, but it scared the crap out of me, and it definitely made an impact on my life.
Is that your perception of what would happen, or do you have a different perception of if something would
it's
happen
it's
and you
hard to
were
say.
abducted?
Well, I've actually, how much do I want to tell you? I've actually had missing time. I've seen UFOs and I've had missing time, but I don't remember what happened during the missing time. And then afterwards, I was fine. I don't remember anything. It was weird because I was pregnant, and at that time I was in the middle of a high risk pregnancy, so I had to go to the doctor every week. And I was going to meet my husband for lunch, and being in television, everything's back timed. Like, okay, I have to be there at 1300, so I'm going to leave here at 1240, so I'll get there. So everything is back timed, so I'm always on time. And when I was leaving the doctor's office, I knew I was going to have an extra 15 minutes because I was just leaving early. And as I was driving down the street, it was one of the busiest streets in Houston. It's 3 lanes and a huge ditch or bayou or whatever you want to call it, and 3 more lanes. And it was the same going that I would have to cross over. And I was the only one there at the red light. And I stopped and I was looking around. It's like, man, it really looks clean here, because usually Houston's pretty gnarly. It's got trash everywhere. There's oil stains on the streets. The grass is all different heights. Summertime is just kind of raggedy. And because, it's in the tropics, everything grows differently. But as I was sitting at the red light, I looked up and I saw a silvery object, and I could tell it was turning because the colors underneath was like a shadow, and the shadow was fluctuating. So I could tell it was spinning, And I was like, oh my God, there's a UFO. And I wanted to point it out to somebody, and there was nobody there. I'm like, the one time I see a UFO, there's nobody around, And so I'm watching the red light, and I'm looking at the UFO, and I'm looking around, there's nobody there. So I'm watching the red light, UFO, red light, UFO, and I'm just doing this for however long the red light goes. Still nobody around. The light turns green. I'm looking around both ways because I'm a careful driver. I look up, there's the UFO. I start to go through the first 3 lanes. I cross over the ditch, and I start to go through the second 3 lanes. I look up, and the UFO's gone. I'm like, well, just my luck. And as I drove forward, I could tell, it was starting to look like Houston again. It was getting oil stains on the ground. The grass was all uneven in different yards, and there's trash everywhere. I'm like, Houston proud. So I drove straight to where my husband was working. I should have been there at 12:45. We were going to meet at lunch for 1300. But when I get there, I get out of the car, and he's like, well, where the hell you been? I'm like, went to the doctor. I literally stopped at 1 red light, and I drove right here. I should be 15 minutes early. Why? He goes, you're 40 minutes late. I had to go to lunch already. Like, well, what do you mean I'm 40 minutes late? I did not even stop, just that one time. He goes, you're late. I had to go. I was like, well, few expletives, and so I went back home. Never thought of anything, I didn't connect the dots. I just thought he was being a jerk or something. And a couple of years ago, I was telling this to a friend of mine. He goes, okay, let me get this right. You saw a UFO. You lost 40 minutes. You were pregnant. You gonna put it together for me? And I'm like, do you think I was taken or something? And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you were. I was like, I don't remember anything. I was sitting at the light. I never lost consciousness as far as I could tell. I went through the light, and I was gone for 40 minutes or something. So I was doing one of our guests on Edge of the Rabbit Hole. did past life and hypnosis and that kind of stuff. And so she offered to let me have a session. And so she goes, okay, are there any questions you want to ask first of all? I'm like, yeah. And so I told her that story real quick. And I was like, did I really see a UFO? Are they following me? Or do they watch me? Because I've had other encounters. And so as she regressed me, it's really weird. I don't know if you've ever been hypnotized or taken back, but my voice has a natural cadence, you know, I'm like a, you know, Bambi or whatever. But when I was being hypnotized, it had a cadence. It was very syncopated. And I didn't expand on any of the questions. She'd ask a question and I would say, she's like, is the sky blue? Yes, the sky is blue. Period. That's it. No more. Yeah. And then I thought it was just a conversation like normal talking. But when I listened to the recording, I would say something like, yes, the sky is blue. And then there would be silence for I don't know how long. And then I hear her writing or something. And then she'd ask me the next question. In my memory, it was just like one question after another, because I thought we only talked for like 10 minutes, but it was 2 hours. So she asked, she goes, Victoria wants to know, are you following them? Or are you following her? And whoever I was talking or whoever was talking through me said, yes, we do follow her. Why do you follow her? And whoever was talking through me, she said, or they said, whoever said, because we like her. Like, oh, well, I'm glad you like me. So, you know, I had the feeling that, you know, I have been spot checked through life. Maybe that's my guardian angel, because, you know, I can't find my other ones right now. So, but maybe they do watch us. Maybe they have like a checklist and say, okay, is this person going along according to plan? You know, let's check in. Oh, she's pregnant. Let's go see how that's working out. Okay, moving on. I don't know, but what I do know, about this time last year on Edge of the Rabbit Hole, we did an astrology show. And I was telling Mike Ricksecker that according to astrology, at the end of 2026, going into 2027, because of the two planets, I cannot remember now. I think it was like Pluto and Neptune or something. When they are at a certain point in Gemini, that's when historically there have been things seen in the sky, like the dirigibles, you know, during the Victorian period, Roswell, back in Rome, you know, it's always, when this conjunction happens in Gemini, there's always some sort of aerial phenomenon. This conjunction is coming up again at the end of 2026, going into 2027. That most likely will be an event of some sort where we will notice, or we will finally be told, yes, there are aliens out there. Yes, there are other civilizations. Yes, we do know about them. They're not here, but we all know they're really here. The last 3 weeks, I have been seeing more and more psychics and more astrologers saying the same thing. I think I even sent you the video today. I was like, that's what I've been talking about for years. You know, more and more people are starting to say it, that we're going to have some sort of confirmation at the end of 2026, going into 2027. Yes, these things are real. These people are real. And it won't be until 2032 where we actually have first contact. So we got a little breathing room. You know, I guess we need to get our act together before 2032. So
out of all of the people that are part of the UFO paranormal connection, if you would name your top person that's, you know, that's involved somehow in informing people or going ahead and instructing people how to do certain things, who would that be? And I know that's taken ambiguous, you know.
No, I for those who know me, you know, I walk to my own beat, to my own drum. I don't do things like most normal people. Back in 1997, I lived in Houston, or outside of Houston, in Sugar Land. And I lived right off on Highway 90. And I told my husband I wanted to go to Roswell because there was going to be a very famous conference there. It's called the 50th anniversary. In fact, that's the poster right there. The 50th anniversary of the alleged crash in Roswell. This is back before Paracons, back before we had all these kind of para-celebs and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, okay, well, we'll just take I-10 and go out there. I'm like, no, we're going to get on Highway 90 and we're going to drive, because Highway 90 goes into Roswell. Well, what I didn't realize is Highway 90 starts in Houston, it goes down to Mexico, and it goes up to Central Texas and down to Mexico. 8 days we did this road. Didn't have a map. We just kept going. Eventually we got to Roswell. There were all these people there who are now famous icons. I didn't know who they were. Whitley Strieber was there. I met Stanton Friedman, Linda Moulton Howe, Eric Van Doniken was there. There's so many people there I can't even think of. Oh God,
was Rosemary Eileen Golly there?
I don't remember, to be honest.
You remember
but
you know who she was, right?
No, I think Linda Moulton Howe was the only female. Everybody else was a man.
Well, Linda was very, even back then, was known for her views.
Well, the Phoenix Lights had just happened, and it was Linda that was another defining moment in my life, because she was putting the slides up and it was all these dots going over the mountains in Arizona. Well, what they're not saying is the mountain range is called and I can't speak Spanish, it's called the Estrella Mountains, which is Spanish for the stars. And this is where the tribes and the natives have always seen activity over those mountains. Oh, the Star Mountains. Okay. But she had a laser pointer and she goes, no, what you're seeing, these aren't individual dots that you're seeing in the sky. And she took the laser pointer and connected them, and it made a perfect rim. And then it disappeared back behind the mountains. I'm like, oh my God, that was a ship. Those were not lights just standing in the sky. Those were like running lights or whatever you want to call them.
Giant.
Yeah. And there's this little place, it's kind of like Denny's. It's called the Village Inn, and everybody goes there and you have pie. And so I was sitting there and I was having pie with my husband and my daughter, and she walks in. She's just this little bitty skinny girl. She's about this big, she's walking by. And I was like, Miss Howell, oh my God, I enjoyed your talk so much. And she was so nice. She just sat there and talked to me for the longest. I got her autograph. I was like, don't know who the heck you are, but I really enjoyed your talk. Well, the next thing I know, all these people are becoming the cornerstones of the UFO community. It was just absolutely amazing. And that's one of the little things where I listened to my little voice, and we made it there. And who knew at that time, right, that these were going to be really famous, important people. And I was just sitting there having pie with them and chit-chatting.
Do you think that's when it really started to happen?
Oh, no, it's been going on. I mean, just look at the biblical paintings. There's one where the UFO is coming down and it's got like this beam of light and it's coming into the window. And there's Mary. Hey, Mary's pregnant. It's like, well, I can't remember the name of it. It's a very famous painting. It's painted like in 14 something or another. It's been going on. I mean, it's in the Bible, Ezekiel's wheel, it just keeps going on. And then the Indian civilization, I'm so bad with words. It's like a little hat with stair steps, and it starts with a V and it flies around. Some of the pyramids were flat, and then this would be on top, and it was kind of like a landing base, where they could come down and land. Again, my mind's blown. I mean, it's like, but no, it's been going on forever.
Okay.
I don't know, what do you think?
I basically think the same thing, but I mean, as far as them actually getting our attention.
Well, that's like people saying it was, yeah, because the name Anunnaki is out there in pop culture, everyone goes to Anunnaki, but there were so many other documented visitations and encounters from other people other than the Anunnaki. I mean, different civilizations have come here. Paul Anthony Wallace has written a trilogy, which is now 4 books, but it's all about, he reinterpreted the Bible literally. And so the word angel, the angels came down from heaven. Well, angel actually means agent. And so the agent came down from heaven, or the UFO or the spaceship or wherever it was coming from, to deliver a message, the word of God or whatever. Something like that totally opens up religion. It's not just a man sitting on a cloud throwing lightning bolts or whatever, like I was told, there's a heaven, and God will judge you. No, it could be an extraterrestrial civilization that came and helped and guided. And I'm kind of rambling now, but I just think
that's why you're here.
To ramble.
No, it's because you you have some very important information. And that's what's the real cool part about it is, and I'm asking you the questions because this is your opinion, and you've been involved with this
A long time.
for a long time.
Since I was 2. So that's 25 years now. No, just kidding.
25 years?
Yeah, because I'm only 27. So, no, I had my first extraterrestrial visit when I was 2. I can remember it clearly. But I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I didn't know this till about, well, heck, I was talking to Andrea. To 2020. I didn't know this till like 4 years ago. That person I saw was a shape-shifting extraterrestrial. It's like, oh, I didn't know who that lady was.
There's those pictures that have been on Facebook of the Sumerians. Because, when we talk about the Egyptians, I always thought that was the crux. That was the basics, the basis of that was the birth was
right
in Egypt. And then the Sumerians, that's another whole set of years back by 2. And they show that guy in that vehicle.
Yes.
And he's got, what do you think about that?
I think they were okay. Well,
you think the Sumerians were part of it?
Yes, but I don't think they were the beginning. I don't think that was the genesis. I think that is as far back as our physical materials are still existing that we can find. I think that's one reason they've reburied, and I cannot say it, Göbekli Tepe. Gobek, it's got L's and R's in there. Göbekli Tepe. They've started filling it back in. They're not excavating anymore. They're saving it for a couple of 100 years. There's something there we're not supposed to see. The best way to preserve it is to bury it, because look, it's lasted 12,000 years because it was buried. So it's right there from the Younger Dryas. I guess it would be pre-Younger Dryas because they knew something was coming, so they buried it. Then they started excavating it in the 90s, right? And so now they're burying it again. So there's something going on over there. But
there's a lot going around all over the place that people aren't. You have to find somebody that has an inside track to just get a hint of what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's sad that I won't know the truth in my lifetime. I find it sad when it's right there at your fingertips. And just keep on digging. Let's find out what's really going on, what's really happening. But they stopped.
What do you think about at the end of this year when this be that the thing that we sent back and forth that had to do with, I can't even think of it now. It was on, we did it on Messenger. I did it tonight. And I think I sent you one too.
You did, and I'm drawing a blank. Okay, mind control. That's another thing. I remember you sending me a video, and I can't remember what it was. I can look at my phone real quick.
Yeah, that would be good, because I don't know if mine is even having any power left in it. But I know right now, Carol Garcia.
You sent me a thing about raising vibrations and how something is going to happen in 2025.
Right.
I think it's already happening.
Because
it's not like it's a page in a calendar that you can turn over. It's energies and frequencies and vibrations and harmonics and personal resonances, and it's almost like a radiation where it permeates, or a watercolor.
Well, it's like somebody's turning the dial, and they just started already to turn the dial, and they have to keep on raising it. Yes,
it's like the energy has already started leaking out. So I don't think it's going to be that date in 2025. As we were talking on Wednesday, Sarah Morgan and I were discussing the high pitched frequency in our ears. And it happened again today. Like, I'm used to it now. It's just, it's always there. It's not tinnitus, but I was working and all of a sudden it just went like an octave higher. And I was like, and now it's at this higher level. So now I've gotten used to that. And for those of us who can pick up those kind of frequencies and those kind of energies, I mean, we're already picking up on it. Maybe the mass consciousness will pick up on it in 2025. Hopefully they'll listen, but
How many different life forms do you think there are as far as aliens are concerned?
Oh God, I don't know. I think it's more than it's more than the praying mantis. It's more than the Greys. It's more than the Anunnaki. It's more than who else is, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians. I mean, it's more than just the little handful. I mean, it's like how many grains of sand are there on a beach? And just look how many stars and planets there are.
And how many star seeds do we know?
Personally, I know a lot.
That's the real interesting part. Is that yes, they're here and they're around us. They're among us.
Mm-hmm.
It's special people.
It's one of the great pleasures I have. I take the back roads when I go anywhere. So if I go on a road trip, and I don't like to listen to the radio because I want to listen to sirens and cars screeching and the high pitched noises in my head kind of make it hurt. So we talk a lot. So we have these great conversations, because 5, 6, 7 hours to drive through, it's Texas. We got a long way to go. And I'm finding more and more people who have shared the same experiences that I've had. And it's not things we talked about as kids, it's a 3-year-old. We're out there playing Barbies, or we're out there climbing trees and stuff. We're not talking about aliens and the owls in the trees or, the high pitch ringing it's just so many shared experiences. And we weren't even connected as children. The people I've been speaking to are like across the country. Like, okay, so when you were 2, did this happen? Yeah. How'd you know? Like, okay. So there is some sort of weird connection I'm starting to come across with people.
So how about when you go out into the desert and you do that big meditation?
I don't go to the desert. We go to East Texas.
Okay, East Texas.
But it's
right on the edge, isn't it? It's basically.
I live on the edge. Well, I live on the edge of desert prairie land. So if you go 2 hours over east, that's where my friends live. They have about 40 acres, I think. They do CE5. So we always start out, first we eat a lot. So so once we get that done, and we go out there and we go outside. It's really quiet. It's really calm. You can see the stars. It's very pretty. They're in a flight path from Dallas. So we have to wait for the planes to stop or at least slow down. So we always start with a group intention. Then I don't know if you know Martha Deckard. She's a MUFON person. She's one of my friends. She's always out there. She's a hoot. She has, I don't know how she got all this, but she plays a frequency that's the same one they use on Skinwalker Ranch, that 136 or 168 or 163 or whatever that is.
But is it done with a tuning fork?
She has it on her some box or something.
She has a recording. Recorded.
Yeah, so it's just like this hum. And so she plays that very loud and she plays it over a Bluetooth speaker. So it gets out in the air. 1.6, thank you. So she plays that for a while. And then she has a recording of these harmonics and humming that comes from crop circles. So there's like the energy that's within the crop circles. So we play that for a little bit. I hate to admit this, but then we go into the meditation that Dr. Greer did. The last one I went to, I've gotten really good at meditating. And I'm out there. And it doesn't matter who's leading the meditation. As soon as it starts, my mind blanks out. My head falls forward. And the next thing I know, I'm popping my head up and it's the end of the meditation. So I'm not asleep. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just blank. And that happened again.
You all join hands when you do that? No?
Nah. We're in our little camping chairs and our little blankets and our hot chocolate. So it's cold out there. But because I have blanked out like that, I have yet to see anything. Now, my friends who do this, it's their farm, their land. They see things all the time. They have videos of lights coming in and swooping down over, and then they're being followed by the black helicopters are coming in. So they have a lot of documentation. I have yet to see it because I'm always zonked out for some reason. So I don't know if I'm not asleep. I don't know. It's just weird. As soon as the meditation starts, my head falls forward. It's like the missing time thing again, and then my head pops up. I'm like, well, have we done it? So I don't know where I'm going, but
one of the frustrating parts about meditations lately with me is the same thing. I'm not asleep.
I'm not either. I did.
And even the guided ones, even the guided meditations, it just takes me, and then I'm down, and then I'll go upstairs, and my lovely wife will always come down and sort of peek, because she says I have a tendency to take these naps.
Yeah.
And I says, you got to understand this. This is not. I am not actually physically taking a nap. I'm somewhere else.
That happened to me twice today. I didn't have any work. I checked my work. I didn't have any work to do. So his lordship and I got back in bed, pulled up the blanket, turned on the heating pad or the electric blanket because it was cold. So I said, okay, I'll do a meditation. I turned it on. The guy was going, in this meditation, we're going to blah, 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 blah. So I'm gone. And then it was a 15-minute meditation. And then I'm sitting up in bed. So I'm not asleep. I'm already up. And so when my head pops back up, he goes, well, thank you for joining me. And I'm like, what the hell? So I go to the next meditation. The same thing happens again. I don't know what that is. I mean, I would really like to know, are we going somewhere deeper? Are we going into a different reality? Or is it astral travel? I don't know.
You mean astral projection?
Isn't that the same thing? Well, astral travel.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. I usually do that when I'm asleep. I've done that a couple of times where we did it as a prank. A friend and I said, wouldn't it be fun to go in so-and-so's dream and just like poke her while she's asleep? And so as we would drift off to sleep at night, I would, you start to get in that theta wave. I'm like, okay, I'm in so-and-so's dream. I see her. She's laying on the bed. She's wearing this. I'm not going to interact with her. I only want her to have the most pleasant, perfect rest that she could ever have. And I wish her health and love. And then I go away and then I'm asleep. And so I did that for like 7 days in a row. And so I went to go have lunch with my friends one day, and she said, I had the weirdest dream about you the other night. I'm like, really? What'd I do? She said, you didn't do anything. You were just standing there. I'm like, okay. So
we used to have them up in the UP of Michigan, and we were way up in Houghton and Hancock area. That is the big peninsula that goes up. Not in the lower Michigan or anything like that. And we used to see white lights, and we'd be drinking, and we'd be down on the beach, and we would drink and be, and then we'd see these things coming. And it's like, nobody's going to believe us anyway, because we've been drinking. Okay. And then you'd see those, and then it's not even 5 minutes later, in come the pursuit from the planes, from the fighters, from the base up there. They'd be chasing them around. And I can remember that happening. And I was a freshman in college. I was 17, 18. I had seen things happen before this, but to the same extent. This was the first one that I really acknowledge. The other ones are too. There's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of gray area between what I had been saying, so you can't put a firm hold on what you've just experienced
Right.
compared to what happens today. And the things about you going out and being able to go ahead and do that in the desert, I'll tell you what, I would love to do that except for the scorpions. Do you have any
Scorpions aren't bad. Yeah.
They're not bad.
It's the little ones you got to watch out for. They're the ones that are like Coca-Cola that's been diluted. Those are the ones you have to watch out for. No, we're out in Texas, but we have the big old scorpions out here. But I have seen things in the desert. I was driving down the 101 one afternoon. I had my convertible at that time. I had the roof down, and I was just enjoying good old Arizona. And I saw a chevron shaped thing fly over the 101 heading towards the Superstitions. And I'm like, oh my God, why is no one looking? Is it because they have roofs, and you can't slow down on the 101? It's like the Audubon. You have to drive fast. And then coming over from Sky Harbor were some airplanes, like, the helicopters. They were following it. I'm like, why are they going to the Superstition Mountains? And why is no one else looking at this? I don't know. But broad daylight.
You think the ranch has something to do with all this?
The Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah.
Well, this was back in the early 2000s. So before the shows, but then they had the Bigelow and all that out there. I think it's just the whole desert area because of the Superstitions. They used to be volcanoes. Well, they are volcanoes. They're dormant. So they have the volcano tubes. And one of my theories that when I was going under the regression, there was a connection between Pompeii, Easter Island, and the desert Southwest. And it's all, and my degree is in television production, so I'm not a geologist, But whatever was talking to me while I was under kept saying it's the salt, or I don't know how you even say it, BASALT, the mineral.
Yes.
I'm like, okay. But I started Googling. I'm like, well, what is this? And apparently it is some naturally occurring mineral. You find it in lava tubes. It is on Pompeii. It is on Easter Island. It is in the desert Southwest. But what it is, it has a very high heat, I don't know what you call it, shielding type. It takes a very, very high heat to penetrate. So if you're in the lava tubes, you could be protected from some sort of thermal event, a CME or something. Because that's one of the things I saw when I was under was there was just like this red mist hanging out in the universe, and the Earth was on a trajectory to go through it. That's when I like to call them the ant aliens from the desert Southwest came, and they were like, oh, come on, guys, helping everybody out, bringing people underground so, they could stay safe in these lava tubes. And I don't know how many generations they stayed underground. But now I'm hearing more and more people like Graham Hancock said something like that maybe a couple of months ago. I'm like, oh, I saw that many years ago in my regression. It's some sort of coronal mass ejection that had some sort of radiation in it that would be very detrimental to humans. And so they had to go somewhere, or they would be gone.
Is that name in ufology? The gentleman's name, Graham?
Graham Hancock, he's an author. He's doing a lot of ancient archaeology type things, fingerprints of the gods. He's written several books. He did a series on Netflix, I think it was last year, that people poo-pooed all over and said, no, that's not true. That's not right. Because he goes against the mainstream views. He's pretty cool, actually. He doesn't keep repeating the narrative. He offers alternatives.
Then when you talked about the lava tubes, I know that I was told by my daughter and my son-in-law that there's new lava tubes that are off of Mount St. Helens.
Oh, well, look at all the volcanic activity. I mean, where
Yeah,
Yellowstone is, all that stuff is shaken up now. Yesterday alone, 7.2 earthquake off the coast of California.
right.
Things are shaking.
So underneath the water way down there,
Hmm.
it could be the same thing. And that could
Yep.
be one of the reasons why they do go into the water all the time.
Oh, yeah. There's supposed to be a secret base off the coast of,
California, right?
I think it's San Francisco. Yeah. It's over in the San Francisco area where you can go under the shelf or whatever you want to call that land,
Yeah,
and
there's
you can go in there with submarines.
the trench.
Yes.
I can't. It starts with an M. I can't think of it. Marianas.
Words.
I,
I don't know. Oops.
I think it is. I want to go ahead and cover a few of these because I think we do have some questions here. I just haven't.
Okay.
I should have been paying attention a little earlier, but Carol said that's who helped me in the lava tube at Mount St. Helens. Who did?
The ant people. Remember,
Yeah.
because she was telling us they had is it called a proboscis? And she didn't know what it was. It could have been a breathing apparatus for all we know,
And Shaw Woman, Dana said that Skinwalker Ranch is a portal of sorts for universal travel. Now, if you guys do have any questions, post them down in the bottom of the comments so we can go ahead and get all those covered too. But I'll start up at the top again. And it's just hellos.
There's also some sort of mineral that is allegedly only found at Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm so bad with names. It starts with a G. It's a real long word. Which I think is making that area a little bit more conducive to have UFO activity. Now, who's to say that is not in, Trey Hudson does research at the Meadow. And I asked him one time, did you ever have the ground analyzed? Maybe that mineral is there too. And he's like, no, we never did it. So unless all these places get the grounds analyzed to see what the ground is actually made up out of, maybe this mineral is in more places than just Skinwalker. So that could explain why more things are happening.
I know Victor Santiago, who's in here, has a great show. And when he was on with us, he was talking about the fact that he was going to be going on his first paranormal investigation. So I don't know if I think it's this coming week or maybe it's coming up a couple months out. I can't remember, but I just thought I'd mention that because I think Victor's going to be a leader when it comes to people and information that a
I've got
lot of
his.
people are shy of going ahead and talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people like you and me have been labeled ever since we were young, like we were acid freaks or we didn't belong here because we talked about spaceships and aliens, little people.
Yeah,
Really,
I was always the hippie chick. That was my nomiker.
yep, yes. I I'm not going to say anything about that.
I went to a school where the 60s lived well beyond the 60s. And I'm very blessed and I'm very thankful because that has opened my mind so much. So, yeah, even in the 80s, the 60s were still alive. So, yeah, I'll
There were
accept
a
hippie
lot of
chick.
people that had that message
Mm-hmm.
and shared it with all these other people, and it just gave them the curiosity to check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Where
It's,
there's a lot of other people that don't want anything to do with any of that because they were never given that opportunity when they were that age.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I was joking the other night when I said I was barefoot, and I'm always barefoot, and I'm barefoot right now. I went to high school barefoot. We dressed like we were straight out of a love-in or something. We had the vest and the flower power and all that kind of stuff. It was in the 80s, but that mentality of freedom and expression and thinking outside the box, that was something that was carried over year after year after year. And I think unfortunately that's gone now, because now they've gone all mainstream and everything over there. So, but I'm very thankful and I'm very blessed I had that opportunity to be feral, just go learn.
Just as long as you're not abducted, Carol, that's all that matters. She says, I love listening and learning from others and hearing their perspectives. She does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She's constantly absorbing, just like you do.
I'm just a big sponge.
That's, there's a lot of people that are envious of that, without even getting into detail about it. And I know that there's so much that I have fallen behind, even on the meditations, because of what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is just like,
it's exhausting.
The whole basis of learning the way you learn, and then all of a sudden this new thing happens to you and it stifles you, and you go, what am I doing wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. In 22, I got laid off. I was working for a entertainment behemoth type company, and they laid us all off. I'm like, well, what the heck am I going to do now? I'm going to move. I'm going to go to the middle of nowhere, Texas, to a little bitty tiny town. So I live in this little bitty tiny town that has a Walmart that stays open to 10:30, and it's 10,000 people here. The whole town is like 4.9 miles across. You can get from one side to another. I don't know anybody here, and then I started developing this mobility issue, and I can't go out and can't do things, and I'm not able to go out. I'm not able to meet people. So I've had to spend the last 2.5 years just thinking and learning and reading and discovering, finding out what my own truth is. And I'm very thankful. Well, I'll be honest, the last couple of years really sucked, but I've learned from it. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity, like you were saying, to learn, to take the time to actually read and learn and discover and experience these things over and over again. So even when it was really bad, it was also really good. So
they all, some of us have been given, like I said, that message.
Mm-hmm.
And there's others that haven't. And, when we're younger and you had that opportunity, just like the first time I had an experience at Gettysburg when I was 10.
Oh.
It wasn't just one small experience. It was half of it was a whole entire morning all the way past lunch.
Wow.
And it was every sound imaginable. And it was the trees, the wind would pick up and the sound would come in with the wind.
Yeah.
And it would be and I said this quite a few times already. There's a lot of people in her that know, but it's every sound that was in the battle.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to go there and experience it.
It was just like you were just waiting to be taken into it because of how overwhelming it was around you. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And then at the end, it was like my father telling me that when we get home, you don't mention this to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what? You mean this didn't really happen? He says,
it did.
I didn't say that. But right after that, after he had me there, we talked to one of the park rangers. And this was before the reenactments. So my father went right up to him, and I was with him. And I heard him say to the ranger, he says, "Are they like shooting over there or something? There's a whole bunch of different things going on, and we're we're having it over here." And he says, "No, no." And my dad says, "Has it happened before?" And the guy looked at my dad and just smiled at him and says, "All the time."
Yeah, I've experienced things like that, and it's overwhelming the first time. I was visiting some friends, and I was in another little town, and they were doing visiting different places that have paranormal activity on the square. And somehow I got lost. I have gypsy blood. I really do on my dad's side. So I got lost in this little bitty town. So I was trying to find my way, but then all the activity was just getting overwhelming, and it was just like swirling all around me, and it was so loud I couldn't hear, and the colors and the lights, and so I had to like grab onto a bench because I thought I was going to fall over. It was just so much. And one of my friends walked up and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I didn't hear him at first, and I was just, it was so emotional, everything that was just happening all at once. It was just like, what's that movie? Oh, Clockwork Orange, where they have the guy's eyes open, and it's just being bombarded with sights and sounds and everything. And I was just hanging onto the bench so I wouldn't fall over. And he comes up and goes, "What's wrong?" And I start telling him, like, "This happened here, this happened here, this happened here, and behind me this happened here, and this was over here, and there's a man up there." And he goes, "Yeah, you're right." And he goes, "You know who's up there?" Because one of the places on the square where we were, it's been alleged that John Wilkes Booth did not die when he allegedly died, that he made it to Texas and then he made it up to Arkansas, I think. But one of the places he was at in Texas was the place where I was standing in front of. And I said, "There's a man upstairs. I don't know who the hell he is, but he's standing at the window, and there's another man with him, and he's screaming, 'Insurgent, insurgent, insurgent, insurgent.'" It's like, I don't even know what the hell that means. He goes, "That's where John Wilkes Booth used to live." I'm like, "Oh, well, that makes sense now." So it's
Go ahead.
no, I mean, it's just overwhelming. I mean, how do you? There aren't books. There's not paracelebs that tell you how to deal with that kind of stuff. That's why I consider myself an experiencer, not an investigator. Is like, you have to get thrown out there. In TV, we had a saying when we were being taught, you learn while you burn. You get thrown out, and if you screw up, but you learn from it. And you just keep going over it, over and over until you can perfect a method, or you know how to deal with something. And so, how do you deal with that, Greg? I mean, yeah, I don't know, but I'm learning.
I just went ahead and had this thought, and somebody doesn't want me to say it, but it had to do, and I know I just blew it. I just lost
Yeah. Interpretive dance.
It just was just another loop
Mhm.
in the loops that we've been going through tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a manual for this, right?
No, there's not a manual. And when you get told, "Oh, okay," the hotel that was in Washington, D.C., across from the theater, was the hotel that John Wilkes Booth had rented a room in. He'd have that room every year that he'd be performing. It was reserved for him. And they took Lincoln to that room when he died.
I've been there.
You knew about this?
I did not know about that, but I when I was in high school, we went to Washington, and it happened to coincide with Reagan's inauguration. Oops. So I've been told. But they took us to that room, and the pillow was still there, and it was encased, and you could still see the blood stains from where his head wound was. But I had no idea that was John Wilkes Booth's room.
That was his room.
That's wild. I haven't been many places in life, but it's really the synchronicity of me actually being, first of all, out of Texas, and in that room.
This is a night of synchronicities.
Yeah, I even snuck a picture, and I don't think you were supposed to take pictures, but I was like, so I have a picture. Yeah, it was back when we had film.
Oh, hell no, no scorpions. Dana says, Shalaman said.
That's it. The Gilson night. Yes. Which I'll never remember again.
Here's Lundorman. If you look at Ainta Basin on Google Earth, to me, it looks like an ancient meteor impact crater. Mm-hmm. In fact, it looks like it came from the east to the west at a low inclination.
That is, James Keenan has talked about that also. He's also, he's a friend of ours from Edge of the Rabbit Hole. He's on Mysteries of Blind Frog Ranch, I think is the name of it. He has discussed things like that, where there's something about the basin. It's just the way it was shaped. That he's doing a lot of research.
That draws him in.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of research, and he doesn't really give details. He alludes to a lot of stuff. He's so smart, I don't catch half the stuff he says, so I have to go back. Oh, okay, sure. Let me Google this, and I'll find out what you're talking about.
Well, you're a lot better at doing that than I am, that's for sure.
I got that kind of time. Why I have a notepad.
You have a notepad.
It's got Victor's name on it, so I'm going to check out Victor. So.
I would stay away from Skinwalker, but Shalaman says a great cable series, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and the crew of scientists have been researching that ranch.
Mm-hmm.
We have a mutual friend of mine and Victoria's that happens to be a lady by the name of Sherilyn Carter, mm-hmm. who she's got 2 books on it now, I think, on Skinwalker.
I can't keep up.
Or no, that's the first one, right?
I don't know, to be honest. Travis Trailer, yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, he's the one that went up. He's the one that went up, right?
He's the blonde scientist that sounds like you just want to go have some cornbread and sweet tea. Katie Page, right?
I've heard of her.
Okay, she's the head of MUFON in Colorado, and if I have the story correct, she has family property that's not too far from Skinwalker, and so we were going to sneak over there one night and one summer. I told her I'd intern for her, and dig up rocks, and then scoot back off the property line. Never actually get on the property line, but go by the gate. I'm sure they would, Area 51 us or whatever.
Why would you take rocks?
See what's out there. Get some sort of mineral composition. Yeah, because there's got to be something in the earth that is specific to these areas. Why else will my little boys tell me that? And plus, they're rocks.
Do you think that they could be dangerous to you too?
The rocks? No.
No?
No, because we'll look at the people who are there all the time. It's not hurting them.
So you're just souvenir hunting.
Curious. I'm just curious, So.
Lenny says again, he says basically a meteor caused the basin there and deposited G-senolite.
Yes, that's the mineral. They say it's only there. of the whole Earth, that's the only place this mineral shows up, which I have a very hard time believing. I think it's the only place where they have tested for this mineral. If they would go to other places that have high strangeness or paranormal activity, test the ground, see if that mineral is there. I mean, I bet you find it other places.
And then there's Carol's question.
The ley lines? The ley lines are actually man-made lines that go over the telluric curve, or the telluric lines, which are the lines of energy that run through the Earth. They're not, what we see when we Google ley lines is basically the flower of life that's over the Earth. I mean, it's not that perfect, but there are lines of currents and lines of electricity that I think it's 105 degrees. Is it latitude or longitude that goes up and down? Whichever that one is. That's longitude, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so at 105 degrees, if you were to follow that through, I think it's 105 degrees north.
Wherever they intersect, correct?
Yeah, just do 105 degrees, and there are like 3 ancient sites. One is Chaco Canyon, and they go from Colorado all the way through Mexico. That there's all these ancient sites, which have significance. But one of them is Chaco Canyon, and then there's another one like way down in Mexico. But they all follow this line of longitude. Way back before they supposedly had, ways to figure out what the latitude and longitude is of the Earth. But they follow these lines. So even, I think, what was it? The American Stonehenge, which is in New Hampshire, I think. It's one of those states up there somewhere. If you take that one, and there was another point, which I can't remember, in Stonehenge, they all line up correctly. And they were all astronomical observatories made out of stone. So, I mean, it's there. I mean, it's real. Yeah, and I know there are people who will poo-poo on that kind of thing. Oh, it's all fringe. It's all, not real. It's if it's
the situation that happened, I think it was this last spring in the desert with these giant columns that were some sort of composite, like some sort of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And they just came out of nowhere and they're there. Do you remember that?
That was actually my Facebook memory from yesterday. It started in 2020. Are you talking about the monoliths that were just there and they disappeared?
Yes, monoliths. Yeah.
Because we had Johnny Enoch. I almost said Johnny Walker, but that's booze. We had Johnny Enoch. We had Johnny Enoch on the edge of the rabbit hole about this time in 2020, and I'm such a dork. I had a Christmas gift that was very tall and kind of looked like a monolith, so I decided to wrap it up in saran wrap, or not saran, aluminum foil. So it looked like it was a monolith behind me. I'm like, oh, here's the monolith. Because, they were there for one day and then they would disappear. So I just remember that. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what they were.
What are your thoughts on it? Have you heard anything?
They were there for 2020.
Where'd they go?
I don't know. They were gone. They were there and then they were gone. But they were all over the world. And then they came back, like you said, like last year, they started showing up again. So my little voice is saying it's got something to do with astrology, because Pluto is going back and forth from Capricorn to Aquarius. And every time it goes back to Capricorn, it's like a lot of crap happens. It's Capricorn being the Earth.
So it's almost like a waypoint if you're on a navigation.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Like on a boat.
Yeah, like we're moving.
Waypoints.
Yeah, we're moving forward. Humanity and civilization is moving forward. Let's put a monolith here. We're going backwards. Oh, well, let's take it back. It's that. So now we're moving forward again. Finally, thank goodness. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more monoliths we're going to start popping up. Probably after January, because Mars is retrograde.
And the last thing that I would like to talk about is something that you and I had talked about before, and it dealt with Michael and the pyramids and
Mhm.
the Stargate. All the emblems that are all throughout the pyramids that, when you go into the chambers down below there, they're on every door, on the door corners.
Yep.
What do you think that means?
I don't know. I've never been to Egypt, but I know
Has he ever said anything about what they mean?
he's over my head. Uh,
Okay, well, let's.
I think there's symbols because you can find them in the pictographs in the desert Southwest too. The best place to hide something is in public view. I've learned
plain,
that.
plain
Yeah.
sight.
Yeah. So I do think you have to achieve a certain frequency and a resonance and have to have certain geographic, perhaps, conditions.
And that would unlock the code, basically.
Yeah. It's not like I'm actually walking, it's like the way I tell people when I see things, it's like you hold a piece of film, the old negatives, and you're like looking at it and you can see all the images. And then if you take a second negative and put it in front of it, well, now you can still see both things, but you can't see them clearly. And it's blurry, but you can make out what each thing is. And so that's what I think reality is like. It's just this, it's like you take two feathers and you blend them together like that. It's like a field of watercolor energy. Just, it's not straight like that, it blends. And if you can get the certain resonance and certain frequency and vibration, personally, like a euphoria or something, it's easier to match these different vibrations and frequencies. And I think that's what a lot of it is. If we could just learn how to find the frequency of the Stargate, of how to travel interdimensionally, I think we could. If you notice, there's always those spirals. Some of them are clockwise and some of them are counterclockwise. Now, in Wicca, anything clockwise, like a Seminole, is very good and positive. So it's like an entry, like I'm doing good. It's, but if it goes the other way, like if you're a kitchen witch and you want to poison somebody, you make a stew, but you stir it counterclockwise because you're putting bad intentions in there. It could be something like that, because I know on Skinwalker, they were talking about the spirals. I don't know if they ever put that together or not. Bringing in energy, and then the other one would be taking it away. So I'm very curious. I need to talk to James Keenan about that to see if, because he said those are stargates, those are portals, those spirals, the cinnamon rolls. But are the clockwise ones doorways in?
No, the other ones are
Yeah.
doorways out.
Yeah. When I ask people that, they're like, they dismiss me. So
There's a reason they've all been put there.
Yeah. And it's just not an artistic interpretation. I mean, everything means something. It's like I was telling you beforehand. I had something sitting over here and I was trying to get out of the way. It's like everything that is in the shot is there for a reason. Everything is, there are no accidents. Everything is staged. So there's a reason why the pictographs are up so high, it's not like they can reach them. They would have to build scaffolding to get up there. So
I had a few experiences of mimics in my house.
Like poltergeist?
I don't know, Jenna, you want to clarify that?
Or you mean like your husband was there, but he wasn't there? Or whomever?
And then Carol says, same with chakras and how they spin.
Exactly. But again, the best place to hide something is in plain sight. And we all have chakras. Once you learn how to spin them and clear them and do all that kind of stuff, we have the answers. And somebody else, who was it? The guy with a great voice. I can't think of it. Billy Carlson. I heard him talking about the other day that the human DNA, it looks like it was altered. Like it was capped, like our longevity was, they actually put like a timestamp on it, like humans only live so long. It used to be hundreds and hundreds of years, but our DNA was capped. And then that they had actually taken some sort of literary work, translated into a binary code, were able to put that on a DNA sequence and then retrieve it later. So the human body is actually able to carry information like that. So all the secrets are within us.
Holy crap.
I know. It's just, see, this is what happens when you move to a little country town and you got nobody here to talk to.
Hey, you know what? That's why you're here, because you have some really great information and you have a lot of great thoughts in your cabeza. No, I'm serious. I that's why, when you were on the rabbit hole, when I saw you on there, you were sort of stifled to a certain extent.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what I
it's
mean?
not my show. Yeah.
But I'm saying that, I always wanted to be able to have the opportunity to listen to you, because you have got a lot of stuff to say, a lot of information that is not on the beaten path.
I spent my life off the path.
Well, that's where I am at.
Yeah.
I'm not on the beaten path either. I never wanted to be on the beaten path, because there's so much more on the outside.
Yeah.
But
when I was just out of high school, I worked for MD Anderson. It's a cancer hospital, and I was working in the biocommunications department. And the governor of Texas was coming, and he was going to give a speech. And so my job as a little, 19-year-old straight out of high school, was when the governor was to exit the stage, I was to open the auditorium door. So I was standing outside, so he could just walk through with his Secret Service. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And so I was watching, I'm looking in the little crack, I'm watching his speech. He's starting to go along, and he's coming my way, and I opened the door, and I'm standing back. Well, he didn't know I was back there, so he pushed the door open, hit me in the face, knocked me up against the wall. Well, I was like all, swollen. But how many people can say they were hit in the face with a door by the governor of Texas? Probably not many. Me.
It didn't hurt your nose, did it?
Well, yeah, it's all. My nose has been broken so many times, but yeah. It's like, oh,
is it really?
Oh, yeah.
You're not the Lone Ranger. But Jenna says, you can tell her that I agree with her definition of mimics.
Yeah. There's definitely something crazy going on now, because my phone lights up when I have Facebook Messenger messages. And so I picked up my phone like 2 or 3 days ago, and it said, did you see the message Mary Marshall sent you? And it was the messenger icon. I'm like, what? Who said that? And I opened my phone. That message is not there. I'm looking through Mary Marshall's messages. She didn't send me anything. So I don't know who sent that message. Why did I get that message?
Did you call Mary and ask Mary?
No, but she had just called me like the day before. So when we chit-chatted real quickly.
And we were talking that next day, weren't we?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, Mary just called me out of the blue. I was really shocked. I was really thrilled. But I don't know why my phone would have said that. And I went through all the messages. It was nothing there. I didn't delete it. I didn't erase it. But I swear to God, I saw that message. So there's something Mary needs to tell me, I think.
Well, she deals so much in the metaphysical end of it, that it would be really cool if you and her were together on here with me.
Do that, because I love Mary. I love her so much. I'm trying to get her. I know she has family and stuff up there. I'm trying to talk her into moving to Texas. She'd be my housemate. I want her to move to Texas and we can get a house together. Wouldn't that be fun? I want to start like the Lily Dale of the South. I think she'd be perfect for that. Yeah. Teach people how it really is.
for having one trip there and being able to be at the Alamo and being able to go through there and feel the energy and do things there that, normal people don't do.
Hmm.
And hearing the names of two of the big three
Yeah.
in there was just, to me, was too much.
This whole state is overwhelming if you are open to it and you're wanting to receive the messages. Like I live not too far. I think we talked about this. The Chisholm
Yes.
Trail, or maybe that was Lynn I was talking to. There's the Chisholm Trail, and then there's an offshoot, and it's called the East Trail, I think is what it's called. And that's where I live. I live on the East Trail. But it's not there anymore. I see Native Americans, I see cowboys, I see herds and herds and herds of, steer and cows and horses, and I rub my eyes and they're not there. So, I mean, they're still here, but when you're off in that fade away, woo-hoo, you can still see them, and when your frequency matches, you see them.
And this
So
is
come
the
here.
last question, and then we're going
Okay.
to pull the pin.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
In my experience, one day I heard my dad call me from inside the house, and he ended up not being home.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Things like that happen all the time. Yeah, I was with a group of friends, and we were walking somewhere, and it was late at night, and I was looking in the store window, and clear as a bell, I heard someone going, "Darling," and it was in an English accent, "Darling, come along." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll be right there." And people are looking at me like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Well, who just called me?" I'm coming. Just wait a second. But I think the secret is to not really care what other people think and start living your own truth. I mean, it's so hard, because people want to be safe and they want to be in the little flock and the sheeps and all that. And it's going to take people to break out of that. But I think that's where we're going in the Aquarian age, is to experience these things, experience a new truth, if anything.
Well, this is a start of something that I really want to pursue with you and continue on with this conversation, because I think it's something that doesn't exist on a lot of
Not yet.
shows. You know what I
That's
mean?
why.
And I'm not saying because of that. I'm saying because we're sharing on information or on thoughts that we have on things that are brought up.
Yeah. It's like I'm not a compensated spokesman by any means, so I don't have to fit the narrative.
Right.
Not a lot of people are talking about living on the Chisholm Trail and seeing, cows that are 100 years old. But you know what Lilydale is, right, in New York, the spiritual community? I've always wanted to create one here in the South to actually teach people how to really see things, how to really do things. Don't do things like people on TV do, the real, honest to God, woo-woo, if you, for lack of anything better to call it, how to experience it. But that's why I need Mary Marshall down here.
That's why we're here right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why you came on tonight. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't a plan. It was not a plan. It happened.
That's true.
And that's important.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why it went down the way it did, and that's the part that I think is really important.
Yep. It also explains my second marriage. It sounded good at the time.
Yeah. Just, I'm not going to go ahead and do another one, but Jenna said, I hope I don't have an attachment from somewhere.
I don't think you do, but even if you do, you can get rid of it.
Yeah. We can talk whenever you want, Jenna, about that. Supernatural Inc., Paranormal Network are the are the mimicking events a bad thing or like a slip in time?
I don't think they're bad. I think they're it's just a way to get your attention. Um,
It's not a slip in time.
mm-mm.
There's a reason why it happens when it happens, even if it's a slip, I think.
Yeah,
What you say?
there's like for the last week, Madonna's "Like a Prayer" has been stuck in my head. I'm hearing it now, so I googled it.
Madonna's prayer?
Yeah, the song "Like a Prayer." So I googled the words. The words mean something. I mean, it's like, I hear your voice, and so I'm like, oh my
And
God, that's
and that goes back to in plain sight,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I mean, you just have to listen. The hardest thing I've had to deal with is accepting that the things I hear and see are real, having the faith and the trust in myself. That's the most difficult. Once you, and it's really hard. Like, did I really just see that? Okay. Um, but once you accept that, it's like you level up in Donkey Kong. You go to the next level. It's a
It's
whole new
your
view.
it's your heart.
Mhm.
It's nobody else's. You
Yeah,
create the love in your own heart for the things that mean something to you.
yeah.
And
There.
you don't really give a damn about anybody else and what they think.
Yep. Sarah Morgan. She has a gift of saying things, and it's like a golden nugget, a core truth or something. And whenever I hear things, I just start crying. And that's my personal key to know that, yes, this is pure truth. And she said something today, and I was like, I'm crying now. Okay, I
There's
know
no
this is true.
crying. Vic,
It's
there's no
it's
crying in baseball. Okay.
it's not crying, it's my heart leaking.
Okay. Okay. I understand that better than I do crying because,
It's
but I
just a
want to
release
say,
of emotion.
yes, I want to say to everybody, thank you for being here tonight. And thank you to my guest, Victoria, for an amazing show. And I'm sure that
Oh, thank you.
we've been trailed too because either KD or Katie is down in the bottom here right now. And I don't know if she's there right now or not. Maybe not, but it's been great to everybody.
Thank you.
Oh,
You see what it is?
yes.
Make sure you look for them.
We haven't even talked about them.
Well, that's the only cryptid story I have. I have three. It's a trilogy.
We'll go ahead and we'll discuss this on the next show.
No. Yeah. So you got to go. Just look for them.
Yeah.
Look for them on
Well,
Amazon.
I don't have to go. If you have to go,
His lordship. I can talk for a little bit more, but his lordship, I've seen him walking around.
what's he
He
doing?
has, he, God, these cats, I swear.
You're
This is,
not paying any attention to him.
well, I have a space heater in my room because I don't want to turn the heat on for the whole house. I'm one person. I'm in one room. That's all I need heated. But he'll come out of my bedroom and he'll just like a little kid. He'll throw the door open and all the heat goes out. Oh, damn cat! So I saw him do that because I know he's out of my bedroom now, so the door's wide open.
Well,
Anyway,
we'll have more time
yeah.
behind when we say goodnight to all these people because
Okay.
the topics we have are probably going to be a little bit too long, and we don't want to keep everybody to the end of time.
If
So,
time exists.
right.
Well, thank you
So
so much for
once
having me
again,
on, Greg.
oh, anytime, Victoria. It's amazing. I just love it to death. It makes so much. It's so interesting, and you know there would be volumes of what you would share.
Oh, good Lord.
Everybody in the chat, thank you very much for being here tonight. We got just a great group of people tonight. It was really amazing, and I'm very appreciative of you all being here. And you guys all have a great evening. And we will see you later. So you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Wednesday is another When Spirit Connect. So that should be a continuation of what we had this last week, I would say. But until then, you guys all have a great time, and we'll see you. Take it easy. Love you all. We'll see you later. Good night. Ha 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 ha.